Hello and welcome to For Future Generations, episode 26. It is for you Sunday, the 27th of July, but for us, it is not because this is
Yep.
our first pre-recorded show, and
Yep.
hopefully we'll keep these to a minimum. But I double booked myself, and I'm going to be at an event and in a way kind of the subject of an event on Sunday. So this is a pre-recorded show. And but hopefully things will hopefully things will go smoothly. Hopefully, the live chat won't be missed too much, but we will have a few people maybe in the private chat that we'll mention here and there. But hope you're having a wonderful time on Sunday, the Lord's Day.
Yep.
I am Geoffroy Von Scott, and I am joined as always by Sean. Sean, how are you, man?
I'm good. We're trying this new Friday is actually the Sabbath. Really trying to throw a curveball at people. Saying that Friday's the Lord's Day now, not even Saturday, like the Adventists and whatnot. But yeah, for real though, doing good. Got another new watch. What? Look at that. Of course, Jeff has been spoiling me. I think he's trying to get something out of me, but sent me this watch out of the clear blue sky. He's just like, hey, here's a watch. It's very nice. It's obviously made in the style of the Vietnam/World War II Hamilton watches. The Casio, which has been my favorite watch company for as long as I can remember wearing watches. So I absolutely love it. That it's the perfect size. The band is great with it. You got the field band, so very happy with that.
It's funny. I never thought that I was like a Casio guy.
Yeah.
Until I started kind of looking through my watch collection. It's like I have my prize watch is a Citizen Eco Drive, which is just very, very cool. And then it's like there's 2 or 3 watches that I still want to get that are Casios, and then I have a watch that's my workhorse. It's a Casio. And then it's like, man, I really didn't realize until I started observing just how much I really like these Casios.
Yeah.
And what's more, they never threatened to beat my brains out with a baseball bat. So
yeah,
they got that going for them.
If Casio made this style watch with a like a mechanical movement, like you'd wind it and all that,
like winding one.
Yeah, I'd be set, but I'd have to go with like a Hamilton or something to really get what I want. But the shape of this one compared to the other one is just there's something I don't know what it is. It's more rounded. We've talked off screen about how we need what did you call it, an onion? The onion.
No, it's a. Well, it's a domed crystal.
Yeah,
is what it is, and the different dome heights have different names, and they're all French.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't always remember them off the top of my head, but yeah, I mean, all the crystals that you see today, they're just
they're all flat. Yeah,
which reflects nicely, but
yeah,
you look at the World War II watches; they've all got that dome shape to them.
Yeah,
just kind of
when we make our own watch company, we'll have to go with that.
And we'll charge $998.
Yeah,
we're not charging $1,000 for these cheap.
Yeah, yeah. But you're asking how I'm doing. I was talking before the show about this, like what I was doing earlier in the day. We went to Buffalo Wild Wings, which always has a special place in my heart. When I was stationed in Oklahoma, that was like my go-to place because, for one, the beer on tap legally in Oklahoma had to be like less alcohol to it. So it was like really, really low alcohol. So like me and my buddy would all Sunday literally watch every football game. Like we would just sit there, maybe not the Sunday night football game, but like sometimes that one too. And we would just sit there and drink all day, which you could do because it was like watered down Oklahoma beer. And
I did not know that was a thing in Oklahoma.
On tap it has to be lower. It has to be less. I don't remember exactly how much less, but it's like half. So like 2 beers is like 1. So we would literally just sit there at Buffalo Wild Wings and drink all day and watch football on the TVs because we didn't have TVs because we were poor soldiers and we didn't care. So we didn't have cable at least.
Not so poor that you couldn't afford to go to Buffalo Wild Wings every Sunday during football.
Right. Well, we didn't have cable. We would have had to purchase cable, whatever.
Yeah, and that's a whole contract. And
yeah. But anyways, so all that to say, I like Buffalo Wild Wings. They have a deal right now where it's like $10 for unlimited appetizers for the whole table. It's not even per person, for the whole table. And we literally, me and my wife go there. We bring our son because our daughter's at school during the day. And she goes to a special autism thing. It's not really school, but so we got our 2-year-old with us, and we sit there and eat mozzarella sticks and fried pickles and just stuff that children shouldn't be eating, but he likes it. So we go. I shouldn't be eating it either, but so that was a cool day. And then because there's nothing really going on, they're playing random sports stuff. So on 2 of the TVs, they had the NHL network. Cool. And they were playing old Sharks games. I don't know why specifically, but it was 2 different old Sharks games. And man, dude, seeing guys who, I say grew up watching, but these guys were playing still when I was an adult. But now their numbers are up in the rafters. But I'm watching this game, and I'm just oh man, I remember all these guys, and there's a feeling one of the guys is the Mike Greer is the GM now of the team, and he was famous as being the Sharks black guy. So that was his thing. But now he's the GM, and he's actually very good. And it was just cool. It was cool to see all that. Joe Thornton is my all-time favorite player. I will never have another favorite player. I have his jersey back when he was captain, so it's got the C on it. And now his number is retired. There'll never be a number 19 for the Sharks. And it was just it was an emotional thing for me. Just I wasn't crying or nothing, but I was just sitting there watching
nostalgia.
Man, yeah, you're watching it. You're just dude, how long ago was that? I'm trying to do the math in my head. And crazy things that connect you like that. There's just something about, non-sports people don't get that, but it's just a thing. I knew a guy when I was in Oklahoma. I knew a guy who was a big Sooners fan, and there was something. It was Christmas Day. I was at this guy's house. I didn't know anyone out there, so I was hanging at this guy's house, and he was talking about they were playing on Christmas Day, just whatever Oklahoma football stuff, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember this game," and it's a game from 20 years prior, and he's just "Oh yeah, this happened and this happened," and that's a hard one because there's a lot of turnover in college football, obviously. But man, Joe Thornton played on the Sharks for 20 years or something. If not more than that. So anyways, that was my excitement for the day. Little thing that
I never have watched a lot of sports, but if I were to really get into sport, I think hockey would be pretty high up there. Just
hockey's
the
great,
intensity is just second to none. Really,
yeah, it's the intensity and fast-pacedness that football thinks that it has, but it just doesn't.
Well, it's the constant running.
Yeah.
Of soccer.
Yeah.
With the big, heavy dudes of football.
Yeah.
With the back and forth of tennis.
Yeah.
It's
but the finesse
part of all of those.
But also the finesse of some guys is just it's just incredible. There's finesse guys. There's power guys, and then there's finesse guys. And
and
Connor
what's funny too, my brother-in-law is a Kansas boy, and he grew up playing hockey, in high school and college and whatnot. And so he's just, this dude is maybe 5'9", 5'10". He's not tall, but he's built like a brick house. The dude's a mile wide, and he's not very fast. When he runs, he kind of does the hustle, the bob and hustle thing. He gets on the ice, and that dude's a bullet train. and he's
Really?
just flying around you and just getting right up to you and stopping right in front of you. You know,
Crazy,
freaking me
man.
out because I never did hockey skates. The only kind of skating I ever did was just for pleasure when I was a kid in Germany. And seeing some of these guys on the ice and the moves that they're pulling off, just high speed, put on the brakes, suddenly cut a different direction. It's like, man, and big burly guys doing this too. Really incredible.
It's also it's got the international appeal, but without the third world countries because it's expensive to play hockey. So it's not like in soccer where it's like, oh, and here comes the Ethiopian team or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
oh,
Uh-huh.
okay, yeah.
Well, I mean, cricket requires a little more than just a ball. You know, you have to have a ball and a bat and some pads and some sticks to set up. And that never stopped third world countries. I think it just has more to do with the fact that it's all cold countries. And
Yeah,
the
but
cold
that's
countries tend to be
yeah.
Northern European. And Northern European countries, you know,
Well,
tend
they
to be more
say in as far as youth sports because that's where that's where a pro athlete's going to start playing in youth sports. Well, to play youth hockey, you've got to have a ton of gear. I mean, you're getting new skates all the time because your feet are growing. You're getting
Yeah.
new pads because you're growing. It's
I
very
have
expensive.
5 kids. I mean, I have more shoes in my house than a Holocaust museum.
Yeah.
It is just the number of shoes you need just to keep one pair of shoes that fits that middle kid whose feet are
Yeah.
in that odd size.
Yeah. So there's that, and then there's like basketball. Like, what do you need to play youth basketball? Literally nothing. You show up.
A basketball.
Yeah, you show up. The league has the ball. You only need the one. It's not like baseball where you need to have a couple on hand or something like that. You just got the one basketball. The hoops are already there. The league provides that. So you show up and maybe they give you one of those thin like go over jersey kind of things, and I mean that's it. So like that's the comparison. Like baseball's somewhere in the middle. Like you need a bat and a glove.
You need some cleats.
You got to have your own glove. Yeah, cleats.
I mean, I've seen poor kids in the cities playing basketball barefoot.
Yeah,
and it's like you can play baseball barefoot, but you don't see it as much. Maybe I'm just not deep enough in the sticks because I'm sure there are plenty of kids playing baseball barefoot.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's get to the subjects of tonight's show. So the title of tonight's show is Sig Sauer canceled, and is it really yours if you have to share? Some news came out this week, and oddly, I've not been seeing a lot of mainstream coverage of it. Usually like Fox News and Newsmax and all of the right-wing coded news sources, Stars and Stripes, probably Stars and Stripes, I'm sure, had something to do with this because they cover military news. But it's like the stuff that like boomers typically consume. They're not touching this with a 10-foot pole. But 8 years ago, you saw all over the news where the United States Army opened up the M17 weapons program, which was the United States Army determined that the M9, the Beretta 92 FS for us civilians, they wanted a new gun. The 92 wasn't cutting it. These are guns that they've had in service since the 80s. And they're starting to wear out, and they're looking for something that they called modular. And we'll get into a little bit later what modular actually means. But they're looking for a pistol that is modern. And so they're looking for something to replace the Beretta. So they open up the M17 weapons program. And this was in 2016 that they did this. And the weapon was going to be adopted in 2017. They did this. There were several, I believe off the top of my head, it was like 6 to 8 different weapons that were actually, let me look at the page right here. So it was Seven different weapons that were put into. No, let me count the dots here real quick. Excuse my eyes. 3, 6, 8. It was eight. 8 different weapons. 4 American companies. Glock of Austria, of course, supplied the Glock 17 and Glock 19. They had a variant that was just a Glock, but tan. And they're like, here's the Glock 17. Hilariously, the Glock 17, which was developed in the 1980s. So here's the United States. They're like, we want a modern, new, modular handgun. And Glock's like, here's the gun we developed in the 1980s that we want to try for this trial. And they were in the final for it as well.
Can I just say that I will say that Glock in general does seem to represent, as far as handguns go, the how do I want to say this? The way that the military thinks about rifles, like the reason that they love the AR-15 or the M4. Yeah, man, dude, I get that so mixed up sometimes. The reason that they like the M16, mostly the M4, now in basic training we shot the M16s. It was like something that some guy killed a bunch of Viet Cong with
20-inch barrel.
Yeah, so somebody killed a bunch of Viet Cong with, and then they said, okay, basic training guys, clean it off and clean the blood off of it and go shoot at the range. But the M4 is because you can just like kind of take it apart. And you could clean, like, even if it's like all rusted and stuff, you can just kind of CLP it. We talked about CLP before, but you can just kind of whoop, 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 and then, put it back together and shoot again.
Just
and the Glock is...
bottle and squeeze it in there and then take an old sock and rub it out. And it's like...
Yeah, it's ready to go. And the same thing, like, I know Glock has, like, what do they call it? The original Glock? Is that the thing where they'll like put it in salt water and do all this crazy stuff with it, and then just like wipe it down and shoot with it, and still works, and then just destroy it. So I'm surprised that they didn't just upgrade to Glock from the get-go, because I've handled people's sidearms. The only people who ever used those Berettas, or at least had them on them, was officers, and our medics. So our medic would have a Beretta like that. That was we had a female medic in my convoy, and she would just have that. She didn't have a rifle with her ever.
Yeah.
So
my dad was a doctor in the Army, so all of his pictures from all of his deployments, he's always got a Beretta on his leg, and a couple pictures he's walking around with a rifle, most of the time on his back, because he's working with his hands. He's doing other things. But, when he was in the green zone, which is where he spent most of his time, he'd just have that Beretta on his leg, walking around full uniform, got his helmet on and his Beretta on his leg. But, he had work to do that a rifle would get in the way. It would impede. So he loves the Beretta. In the group chat this week, it came up, and there was this one guy, good guy, but he's absolutely wrong about firearms. I mean, he was 2 inches away from saying 2 world wars.
Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
But
was he actually a 1911 guy? I didn't see that whole.
No.
Okay.
He's an AK guy. I take it. Which for guys who are in the gun culture, the AK guys, because they're always like, oh man, I would never trust an AR-15 with my life.
Yeah,
it's a bad weapons platform. It's nasty on the inside. It doesn't clean itself. It gets full of nastiness, and it jams. All of these things that have never been a problem in the history of the weapons platform, except for when it was first introduced and people were intentionally mistreating it to try and make it fail.
Yeah.
But that is another subject for another time. Right now, we're talking about the Sig Sauer P320, The military version is the M17.
So
the
is your so
weapons
I'm not familiar with this, but are you saying that this was the one that the Army or the military was like, this is replacing the Beretta?
Yes. So
Okay.
the M17 weapons trial, the two finalists were the Sig Sauer P320 and the Glock 19. And the Sig Sauer ended up getting selected before testing was finished, actually. And there's a lot of controversy about this. And Glock actually, I believe, tried to sue the armed forces because the trial, when it opened, it said, we're going to test it to so and so many rounds. And they only got halfway through that, and then they stopped and selected the SIG. And Glock said, hey, if you had finished testing, it's not like they didn't do thousands of rounds. They did, I think it was 45,000 round tests on these pistols. And they were going to go to 45,000, but they didn't make it all the way there. But they did several thousand rounds. And Glock said, no, if you'd kept testing, failures would have arisen in the SIG that would not have arisen in the Glock. So they felt cheated. And maybe they're right and maybe they're wrong. Both weapons were performing quite admirably, seemingly admirably in the test. Beretta, who had their 92 replaced, they applied the APX. Now, the APX, let's see. Let me see if I can pull this picture in here. This is the Beretta APX that was submitted by Beretta to the test. You can see this thing has no similarity to the 92 that it's replaced. No. Now, this is where I want to get into when the M17 program said, sorry. When the M17 program said they wanted a modular firearm, the SIG has a system where the fire control group can come out of the gun. So the only licensed part of a firearm for a SIG is literally the trigger mechanism. And you can pull it out, you can change the handle, you can change the slide, you can change the barrel, and all of these pieces come out like Lego bricks. And then you can just buy parts for pretty cheap. And SIG's been really good about this, actually. And just rebuild all around the same trigger pack. That is not what the Army was talking about when they said modular. There were two things specifically, and three things perhaps that the Army was looking for. One of them was kind of a little less a priority. But the first thing was they wanted an underbarrel Picatinny rail for lights and lasers. Yeah. So you can you see my cursor hovering around there? Yeah. So right here, there's a 1913 rail underneath here, and then the other thing they wanted was a modular grip, so you could change the size of the grip because manlets and women are in the Army now, and small hands. So, you hold the big Beretta, and in a man's hand, the Beretta feels amazing. If you have not held a Beretta 92 and fired it at the range, I encourage you to go give it a try. It feels amazing. It's just wonderful. Well, one of the advantages of the Glock and the new Glock that was given in this trial, and then also the Sig Sauer P320, they both had the underbarrel Picatinny rail for lights and laser mounts, and they also both had modular grips. So on a Glock, you just change out the back strap so it's fatter or less fat in your hand. With the SIG, you'd change out the whole frame because, like I said, the fire control group comes out. So you pull the control group out, you can throw the frame away, grab a different smaller one, bigger one, whatever you would like to make it fit your hand. Well, the SIG and the Glock made it to the finals. Like I said earlier, they didn't finish out the finals and they selected the SIG. And the reason is because the contract that they gave to Sig Sauer was $110,000 less than the proposed contract from Glock. So
That's like nothing, though.
yeah, it's not a lot of money, but it is money. So at the end of the day, it's like money talks.
Yeah, but that's got to be like $1 billion contract, right? Like
Oh well, here this isn't necessarily for the full run. This is for like the first run of pistols.
Oh, okay.
So it's like this is going to be $110,000 contract that is repeated and repeated and repeated multiple times.
Oh, okay. I got you.
So the beans will definitely start counting up, especially over the 8 years that this has now been in operation. Because this gun, the P320, right here, this gun here has been in service since 2017. It's a striker fired. It's a beautiful pistol. I kind of like it myself. But I am not going to buy a SIG P320. And I am now very glad that I have not bought a SIG P320. And the reason is it has had some teething problems. Seemingly, it passed all of the tests, right? Glock says, our tests, everything that, all of the problems that we're having now could have been avoided if we had just selected the Glock. But these things didn't seem to come up in the testing that was done. What are those problems? Well, first off, right when it was issued, people started noticing that there was a problem with the drop safety. Now, drop safety is exactly what it sounds like. If you drop a gun, it should not go off, right? If it does, I'm sure everybody's seen Hollywood movies where it's like, some guy drops his gun and the bad guy's got him cornered. He says, "Drop your weapon." He drops his weapon. And then when he does, for some reason, it magically goes off and shoots the bad guy in the hand. And he drops his gun. And then the good guy picks his up. And it's like, aha, big reversal. Ooh, Deus Ex Machina, right?
Yeah.
Denouement. There you go. But what you ended up with was these people got these guns and they were taking them out on the range. They were taking them out in the field, and a couple guys dropped their guns and they went off without a trigger pull. So people sent them into SIG. SIG looked them over. They said, "Oh yeah, sorry, there's a bad spring. We need to update the spring." And this is not unusual. The M9, the Beretta 92, when it was first put into service, it was having teething problems as well. Under extreme cases of heavy firing, the frame was coming apart and breaking and cracking. And so they actually had to change the metal that they were making the frame out of, because it's not a steel frame. It's an alloy frame. I believe it's an aluminum alloy frame. They try to lighten it up a bit. But so many pistols have done this, been put in service. They've had some teething problems, had a little adjustment. But what made this one unique is that SIG, after fixing the drop safe problem, people started having a problem of the gun firing without a trigger pull. Not, it got dropped and then it fired when it hit the ground or the table. Hold the gun in your hand, and then boom, without a trigger being pulled, the gun went off. So here is a short video of what we're talking about here. I'll see if we'll just wait for this video to reset and you'll see what I'm talking about. So he's firing his gun. And this is a very good video right here. This guy holsters his weapon. You can see his finger off the trigger there, not on the trigger. Holsters his gun in the holster. Boom! Gun goes off. You see the shell casing eject there. and it shoots the ground right next to him. Maybe shot his foot, maybe shot his leg. It doesn't look like he got hurt. It looks like it went into the dirt. But this is very dangerous. There it goes into the holster, right? This is a high quality holster. This holster is not touching that trigger. Boom. Fired. Or there's this video here. Now this video also does not have sound, so we'll play this real quick. Let me make sure. Yeah. All right. This is in a police. You can see this is a police station. These guys are walking around. His hand's not on the gun. Boom. Nobody even touching his gun, and it goes off. Bam. And almost shot that guy in the leg. Let's watch this one more time. You see, he's not touching his gun. He's not pulling the trigger. Boom.
Do you have sound? Do you have sound on the other vid?
There is no sound. There's another video that has sound. There's some pretty nasty swearing. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I'm afraid. Hold your ears. If you have kids in the room,
But I just love the guy's reaction. The guy running the range was
So here's
not
this
his
video.
words, but yeah.
I'll go ahead and unmute it when the thing starts over, but he does swear at it quite a bit because he's pretty ticked off. But check out.
Like my demonstration, I want you guys. All right. Is that a fucking 320? Yep. All right. Hold on. God damn it, dude. Get this gun off my range. Don't bring it back on the range. God damn.
Get this gun off my range. And notice his reaction immediately is that a 320?
Yeah, exactly.
He knew. Boom. There was a gun that went off in a holster, didn't hit anybody. And he says, is that a 320? Yeah. Yep. Get that gun off my range. He takes it away from the guy, unloads it, drops the magazine, says, get this off my range. Do not bring it back.
Yep.
So, we are starting to see this in the real world. Several people had this happen, sent their gun into SIG. SIG was like, oh, there's nothing wrong. You pulled the trigger. Or sometimes they would say, oh, we found the problem and we fixed it and sent it back. And the guy's like, I still don't trust it. It has gotten to a point where now it has gotten so extreme that this week, and this is why it's called SIG Sauer canceled, this week, a United States Air Force sergeant was killed by his P-320. A United States Air Force sergeant. Now, we don't know all of the details about... Excuse me. We don't know all of the details about what caused this. It's under investigation. I'm sure we will hear about what caused, some of these things. But what we do know is that effective immediately, the entire armed forces put out a proclamation: remove the M17 from all service. Get it out. Now, this comes on the heels of in March of this year. This was shared by Sig Sauer. Let me add it to the stage real quick. Let's see. It was this one right here. In March of this year, Sig Sauer released this statement after. Well, let me show this one instead because it's easier to read on this one. Sig Sauer on the 7th of March, the P-320, it ends today. The truth about the P-320. Now, what is this truth that they're talking about? Well, I'll go ahead and read you what these smaller things say. The allegations against the P320 are nothing more than individuals seeking to profit or avoid personal responsibility. That's a high charge. Recently, anti-gun groups, members of the mainstream media, trial attorneys, and other uninformed and agenda-driven parties have launched attacks on one of Sig Sauer's most trusted, most tested, and most popular products, the P320 pistol. In all cases, these individuals have an ulterior motive behind their baseless allegations that the P320 can fire without a trigger pull. They have no evidence, no data, and no empirical testing to support any of their claims. They instead choose to misrepresent clear, negligent discharges as a design problem. In the decades since its introduction, the P320 has undergone the most rigorous testing and evaluation, blah, de blah, de blah, de blah. Lawsuits claiming the P320 is capable of firing without the trigger being pulled have been dismissed in courtrooms around the country. So what happened was there were court cases, and the judges dismissed the cases for lack of evidence, because at this time in March, the people who were coming to Sig Sauer with this case, most of them did not have video recording. There was one guy who quite famously was a professional shooter. All right, he was a sponsored contest shooter, and he put his gun in his holster, much like the videos that we've just seen, and then boom, his gun went off without a trigger pull. He immediately pulled out his gun, unloaded it, and removed himself from the shooting range for a negligent discharge. He was disqualified from the event because of this. And this man does this for a living. Okay? He's not doing this because he's anti-gun. He shoots guns for a job. And he carried the SIG P320 because he liked the gun. So this is not an anti-gun group. This is not an anti-Second Amendment agitator. This is not a Sig Sauer hater. This is a man who liked the pistol, who was using it in competitions, a competitive shooter, had the gun go off, and it was primarily his case, along with several other people who attached themselves to him as a class action, that got dismissed by this court. And the reason he was dismissed was lack of evidence. Not, mind you, the court did not say SIG has no fault. You know, they didn't say SIG weapons are perfectly safe. All that the court determined was you do not have enough evidence to bring this lawsuit forward. So Sig Sauer makes this extremely strong statement. They end this statement with, the rhetoric is high. We can no longer stay silent while lawsuits run their course and clickbait farming, engagement, hacking grifters continue their campaign to hijack the truth for profit. Enough is enough. From the courts of law to the court of public opinion, we will combat the lies and misinformation with the truth. Sig Sauer stands behind the quality, safety, and design of all our products, especially the P320. And then this is just absolutely shameless. Industry, take notice. What's happening today to Sig Sauer with the anti-gun mob and their lawfare tactics will happen tomorrow to another firearm manufacturer and then another. Today for Sig Sauer, it ends. Okay. If you say so, well, what is this? July 23rd. Let me try and make this as big as we possibly can. July 23rd, Sig Sauer. Our hearts are with the service members and families impacted by the recent reported event at the F.E. Warren Air Force Base. We proactively offered assistance to the U.S. military as they investigate the incident and remain willing to help the furtherance of their ongoing inquiry. We have absolute confidence in the military's ability to conduct a thorough investigation and are working with the Air Force and Army to answer any of their questions. That's a tone shift.
Yeah.
We have what is it they say? We have absolute confidence in the military's ability to conduct a thorough investigation. Not we have absolute confidence in our product. Notice it doesn't say anything about that. But here's the real kicker. These are comments underneath my post here. Comments on this post are turned off.
Ooh.
Who can reply? Account Sig Sauer Incorporated mentions can reply.
Boy, that really strikes to the heart as a athletics fan, because that's something they've done for like 2 years on their social media accounts. They got roasted so hard. They're like, you know what? We're going to keep putting out content, but no one can comment, because they know it's just all going to be them getting roasted. There won't be a single person defending them.
Right.
Like it's an admission of guilt is what they absolutely know that it is.
Yeah. And the only reason that that somebody would come out and say something like this is, would make a statement in this vein about their confidence in we're confident the investigation will be thorough. That's just covering their assets. All right, they are.
Can I ask a question? You said that in your comment that 8 years ago, testers said that there was an issue.
So what this was is it was not the military testers, but this was individual testers, specifically talking about the drop safety problems.
Okay.
And Sig Sauer fixed the drop safety problems. And at the time that this happened, lots of people were saying, hey, Army, Navy, Air Force, all you guys who have adopted this pistol, you need to slow your roll. Maybe drop your gun. Not literally, but figuratively. Yeah. Don't drop it literally.
Yeah, because then it'll go off. Yeah.
But you need to drop this platform until there's a little more thorough investigation into what's going on.
Right.
It has been 8 years since 2017 when this gun was adopted. It was adopted in January of 2017. Now, just because it was adopted in 2017 doesn't mean everybody got, a brand new copy of this firearm in their hands on January 1st, right? This is
right.
Adoption is slow, and it takes some time to get into the units that need it. The first people who got it were, I'm sure officers, probably, the most important people who always want the new stuff. It's like the Marines always get the old stuff, right? They're still running Cobras that were flying around in Vietnam, right? They get the leftovers. But what's happened is over the last 8 years, pretty much everybody. I live not very far from Fort Hood, and I know lots of soldiers who are stationed on Fort Hood, and they all have the P320 now, or the M17, as it's called in the military nomenclature. And, that's not to say everybody's getting shot. All right. It's not Mogadishu on the firing line. Somebody tallied up and said, it's only been, there have only been 64 reports of this. I can't believe, with, I believe it was 3 million. Sig Sauer has made 3 million P320s and only 64 reports of this firing without a trigger pull. So it's obviously not a widespread problem. Well, here's the thing. It's widespread enough that on a firing line, when a range officer hears a gun go off when it shouldn't have, he walks toward the guy and says, "Is that a P320?" And the owner of the gun immediately knows what he's asking. He says, "Yup." And he says, "Get that thing out of here. Get that off of my range and don't bring it back." So it's enough of a problem that people are noticing. And it's enough of a problem that it's going off in police stations, nearly taking out a guy's kneecap, going off. I mean, can you imagine Appendix carrying a SIG P320? For those of you who are not gun guys, appendix carry means you're carrying the gun right in front of you, pointed nose down, right at the thing between your legs.
Yeah.
A gun that could potentially go off without a trigger pull.
Yep. Yeah.
Do you
Cheddar
want
Bob
that in
yourself?
your pants? Yeah.
Do you know who Cheddar Bob is?
No, I don't. I think I know who that is. I think I know.
In the movie 8 Mile, it's
Okay.
the friend that he shoots himself with his own gun, like putting it like he's like putting it in his pants and he shoots himself. So that's every time somebody does something like I immediately thought of Cheddar Bob, because he later in the movie, when they're doing like the rap battles and stuff, he's like, yeah, I got a friend named Cheddar Bob who shot himself with his own gun, and like it's anyway. That's the only thing I could think of is someone shooting themselves like that. Like,
yeah, I mean, unless you want to become, the next Bruce Jenner, don't appendix carry a Sig P320, guys. Don't do it, because I mean the odds are 64 in 3 million. It's like those aren't bad odds, right? If somebody came up to you, Sean, and said, "Hey, man, you have a 64 in 3 million chance of winning the lottery if you give me $100 right now," you'd be like, those aren't great odds. I'm not going to take it, right? Yeah. So it's not like it's imminent.
Yeah. Or hey, I'll give you. Like, this gun has a 64 in 3 million chance of blowing your wiener clean off. Yeah. I'll give you $100 if it doesn't. Nah, I think I'm good, man.
Like, all of a sudden, when the odds are reversed that way, it's like, no, I'm good. I'll carry something else. I'll be just fine carrying something else. So the Sig Sauer was removed from service pending investigation, and I don't think continued lawsuits are going to get thrown out like the previous one was, because we have videos like the ones I've showed you that did not exist at the time, or at least were not readily available at the time, or for some reason the judge must have thought they were not pertinent to the case. The thing about litigation is it's a process. Yeah. And sometimes you have to wait until you have enough evidence to go forward on a thing. And the problem is, a lot of times, and there's not really a solution to this, a lot of times a lot of people get hurt because there isn't enough evidence yet to make a decision. You see this with murders. A police force will have really good reason to suspect that a guy is a murderer. He's their number one suspect. They're watching him all the time, but they have to wait for him to try and kill another person before they arrest him, right? I'm sure you've heard stories like this, true crime or on the news. It was like, yeah, we knew about so-and-so.
He was on our radar.
Yeah. He was on our radar. What does that mean? It's like, well, we had a feeling that he was trying something like this. We had a feeling this was his pattern of behavior, but we didn't have enough hard evidence. Well, the evidence is stacking up. The walls are closing in, and it ends today.
Can I say something in defense of myself? So I got out of the Army in 2013. I had no idea any of this stuff was going on, which is hilarious to me, that like guys that are true gun guys, like I don't consider myself a true gun guy. Like it doesn't mean I'm not interested in guns, but I don't claim that for myself. Like, I'm not the guy that watches the YouTubers. I'm not keeping track of, I keep track of legislation, but I don't keep track of like what's being made or what's rumored to come out and all that kind of stuff. Like I have friends who will test every single thing that comes out by the big manufacturers. And so I didn't even know this was going on. But gun guys apparently knew, oh yeah, the military just got this new sidearm. I don't keep up with that stuff. I don't claim that kind of clout as like a gun guy. I know one gun very well, and that is my not M4. It is the AR-15. That's what it is. Because technically, that's another conversation. Because technically, the M4 has a 3-round burst option, which literally nobody has ever used in the entire history of the U.S. Army. So
it's either one at a time or full send.
Yeah, I don't need to, like, if I want to shoot 3 times, I'm gonna go pow pow pow. I'm not gonna like 3-round burst is just such a silly thing to even have. I don't see a use for it. I think it's silly.
Yeah, the origin of the 3-round burst is that you have a 30-round magazine, and actually at the time that the M16 was first issued, you had a 20-round magazine. So you've got 20 rounds, and they were going into the jungles against Vietnamese guys running around with AK-47s with 30-round magazines. At least I believe it's a 30-round magazine that the AK-47 has. I don't have an AK. I've shot AKs before, and I kind of like them. But they're more expensive to own and shoot now that there's a war between Russia and Ukraine. And if I do get an AK-47, I'm probably going to get a Chinese one, because the Chinese, while they are pretty well known for making bad products in general, like all of our cheap plastic parts that break come from China. At my last job, we had a truck that was having transmission problems, and we had to look around and around and around for a guy that worked on these Allison transmissions, big truck transmissions. Found a guy who worked on them, went in there. I said, hey man, I'm having a problem with my transmission. It's having these shifting problems. It's shifting rough. It's not going into gear. And this is, at this point, I've been driving 18 wheelers for 10 years. I'm like, just give me a stick. I'm sick of this automatic transmission. Give me a stick and leave me alone. I walk into his office and I start describing the problem. He stops me and he's like, oh, and it's doing this and it's doing this. And then it was running these codes. And then you tried to fix it by doing this and it didn't do anything. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. He says, heard it 1,000,000 times. He said, and then the next thing he said is, the year of your truck is this, that, and the other, or newer? And I said, yes, it is. He said, well, on my desk in my shop, I have a coffee bucket. You know how coffee grounds come in these big tins? He says, I've got a coffee container full of the part. And what I've been doing is, on the old Allison transmissions, they had this itty bitty part, this big, size of a walnut or a pecan. And he said the old ones were made in America out of cast iron. The new ones are made in China out of plastic. He says, I pull those things out and I replace them with a new version from China that's also made out of plastic, but it's made out of a different plastic that's harder or whatever. But in the meantime, that's the problem. They just, this one part, they cheapified it. They started making Chinese plastic, and it started just destroying the insides of these transmissions. And if you don't fix it, it will destroy the entire transmission, and you'll have to replace it. So China's pretty well known for having bad plastic parts, but they're also known for having some of the best AK-47s.
So, that's interesting, because they use a lot of pig iron in China. Like they don't use good iron like we do
steel.
Yeah.
I mean, in America, they'll use really high grade steel just for cheap little throwaway items, which is really, really bizarre. Yeah. And then, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. Less about the AK-47 platform, and we'll get back to the SIG. Now, a lot of people, their reaction to this is, I'm never buying another SIG product again. And some of that is warranted. And some of it is because of the reaction of the company. I mean, it has less to do with the product itself. For instance, P365 is my everyday carry. I have never had a problem with it, and I don't really hear people having problems with it. When it first came out, it was having some problems with the firing pin breaking. but that was resolved. Hasn't been a problem for several years. People are not having the same problem with other SIGs. And interestingly, Sig Sauer is a multinational company. Okay. SIG is originally a Swedish, or a Swiss rather, company. And SIG, S-I-G, Sauer, is an acronym. And the S in SIG stands for Schweizer, which is the German ethnicity in Switzerland, Schweizerdeutsch. And so in Switzerland, the SIG P320 is the issued sidearm for their military. And the for those of you who don't know, the Swiss military is literally everybody in Switzerland. Okay. It's like the army is the populace. They are an armed society. They are a polite society. And they don't seem to be having this problem. Sig Sauer is also a German company. So Sig Sauer GmbH. They are also making SIG P320s, and they're not having this problem. It's only the American pistols that seem to be having this issue. Now, that said, the Swiss pistols and the German pistols are not producing at the rate that American Sig Sauer is, Sig Sauer Incorporated, because the United States Army is a lot bigger than the German Army and a lot bigger than the Swiss Army. Like orders of magnitude. And it's not just the Army, it's the Army, Navy, and Air Force that have all adopted this pistol. So they may be having these problems as well, but just because they're smaller, it's less known. But what a lot of people are speculating is that, just tighter quality control, whatever it is that's causing this issue, doesn't seem to be happening in other places. Doesn't seem to be happening with other models. Other pistols aren't doing this. Like I said, the P365. Lots of people appendix carrying the P365. It is the most popular handgun for concealed carry in the United States as far as sales go, which means that there are a lot more people carrying it than any other pistol. Now, a lot of people buy it, don't carry it, but you don't hear stories of people shooting themselves with their P365s, and that is because that product seems to have all of the kinks worked out, and it was never having this problem to start with. But like with all brands are built on trust. And the way that this has been handled by SIG, where they're accusing the people, bringing it to the attention of the populace of being anti-2A, gun-hating lawyers, all of these accusations, that behavior has tainted people's love of the brand and their trust in the brand to fix problems that may arise in the future. And that is something to consider. If you have a brand, even if they make good products, if they don't take good care of you, you're going to get mad at them and you're going to not like them. We talked about this with the watch episode that we did on Wesson Watch. One of the things that I talked about is when you buy these luxury watches, when you spend thousands of dollars on a watch, one of the things that you're paying for is the brand name and recognition and the service. You're paying for the fact that the thing is warranted, that they're willing to help you fix it, that they have their customers back with whatever issue might arise with their product, that they really stand behind their product. And if you have a company that doesn't stand behind their product, and especially a company that starts accusing you of having some kind of ulterior motives, that's going to sour people on the brand itself.
What? So, you're SIG phobic? You must secretly want to have sex with a SIG.
This has led to several really, really funny memes on Twitter yesterday and today. Lots of people making jokes about Sigger You know, people who carry SIGs are SIGgers, and you know, we're starting to. We now have, you know, we're bringing. Oh shoot, my brain just blanked on me. But you know, we're having an apartheid society now, where no SIGgers allowed. You know, you're going to walk into gun ranges and you're going to see signs that say, you know, this is SIGgers keep going. This is a water range, or you know, going to have sundown towns for people who carry SIGs.
Yeah, my favorite one was the where they had the Burger King crown guy on the airplane, and it said like, "Get that cigger off my range."
Get that cigger off. Get that cigger off my range.
Yeah.
Yeah, I should have pulled that one up. I think I saved that one. I might not have.
But, I don't know whose face they were putting on it. It's probably some popular. Like I said, like gun people know, like all the YouTubers or gun tubers or whatever you want to call it. Like, I just don't. I don't watch any of that stuff.
Yeah, I would say that if you're looking for just you know, just easy consumption, normie friendly kind of stuff, one of my favorite gun tuber channels is Brandon Herrera, and he does a bit that he calls gun meme review, where he will go over kind of the things that are happening in gun news. You know, what are the things that are going on? What are the funny, you know, memes that are going around? Let's see. Here we go.
Oh, there it is. Yep.
Oh, I have to remove this, then add this. There we go.
Yeah, who is that?
That's him, but they put a Glock hat on him. So it says Glock Perfection, and then the bandana. So when the video was taken, it was not long after COVID, so I think he was wearing the bandana.
Yeah.
Some people pointed out, if you don't know the story behind this guy, he got on an airplane with a Burger King hat, and he started screaming about black people on the plane. Get that N-word off the plane, and he had to be removed.
Yeah.
People started digging into it. Evidently, what's going on is there's a warrant for his arrest in the United States, and so he's being extradited. They put him on an airplane, and then he causes a commotion so that he gets kicked off the plane, so that he doesn't get extradited to the United States. So it's seemingly not like a super serious offense. I don't know I don't remember exactly what the issue was, but it's like, yeah, it's not like he murdered a guy, right? He's not coming back in shackles, but he is getting, you know, sent back to the United States for like overstaying a visa or something. And he'll just cause a commotion on the plane, get kicked off the plane, and then he can stay where he's at for a little bit longer because, you know, well, you can't get extradited if they won't let you on the plane. So that's what's going on with this situation here, but still very very funny situation all around.
Except for the guy that died.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like I said before, you know, sometimes you have to wait until there's enough evidence for true action to be taken. And unfortunately, in this instance, it required the death of a sergeant.
That sucks, man.
Probably a good guy.
Did he have it holstered at the time?
We do not know.
Oh, okay. We know nothing.
We know nothing. Okay. Well, here's what we do know. We know that he was shot in the chest.
Really?
He was shot in the chest by a SIG P320. The military is investigating it as a crime, but at the same time, they issued an order that all guns all SIG M17s be taken out of service.
So we've got a comment from Sultan in the in the private comments here. He says, yes, it was holstered. He took the holster off and sat it on his desk. I don't know how to confirm that, but I mean, I consider Z to be a reliable source. He didn't just make stuff up. He doesn't do the thing that foreigners do, where they just make stuff up, like we talked about in a previous episode. That now that you've mentioned that that's a thing people do, when I notice my wife doing it, I'm just like, stop acting like a foreigner. Like,
stop acting like an Arab.
Yeah, I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
Do you know what they are using in the meantime? Because you said they grounded all 320s. So what are they using?
They're probably going back to the M9. They've still got a lot of M9s.
Oh, okay. They're just like a Connex full of Berettas.
Yeah. I mean, they're pulling them back out of the armory and reissuing them.
Oh, I love it.
Can't get away from it. Yep. So, like that meme before, Casio never threatened to beat my brains out with a baseball bat. The Beretta never shot me in the chest. The Beretta never shot me in the leg. So they wanted a new firearm, and by golly, they got it, and they got it good and hard.
Man, dude, I really hope they go to Glock. And I'm gonna say why. First of all, Glock, everyone knows is a quality handgun. Like nobody says it's not, right?
Mm-hmm. The people who don't like Glock, the things they criticize it for are because it's too blocky and it's not pretty, and it's like, you know what? Fair. But it works.
But this is a military thing we're talking about. So who cares? Who cares that I look like I have PlayStation 1 graphics when I hold up my square gun and shoot it? Nobody cares. It puts rounds down range at a reliable rate, and it doesn't matter if it gets dirty
and accurate, and it doesn't jam.
Yeah. So I hope they go with Glock because, and I believe we've talked about this before, but it's fascinating to track the history of military weapons and what is popular with civilians. Because like the reason that the AR-15 is I'm sure it's the most popular rifle. I have no stats to back me up on this, but I'm sure it's the most popular rifle platform in America. It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
And it's not
ahead of the others.
Yeah, and it's not because it's the best by some measurable standard. I mean, I don't believe it's bad by any means. You'll never hear me talk bad about it, but it's because veterans come home and do the thing I did. They go to their local pawn shop and they say, I want that because I can pull it apart and I can do this with a blindfold and I can put it all back together. And I know this thing backwards and forwards. That's the only reason I bought one, because I know everything there is to know about, well, maybe not everything, but I know which end's the dangerous end. I know how to take it apart and clean it and put it back together. And
all of the serviceable information, you have that down pat.
And I could take it apart with my hand, which is also true for Glocks. And for that reason alone, I respect a lot. I love a weapon that I can take apart by hand. Sometimes you might need like a stick or something to get that first little pin out. But once you do, like with a M4, I mean, you take the whole thing apart. Not trigger mechanism and all that, but that's just something I look for in weapons. So I'm hoping that the Army or the military as a whole goes with Glock, because it's a company I respect, even though I don't have like brand loyalty to it. I would like to see that. I have a lot of friends that are Glock guys. Like, if it's not Glock, it's bad. I don't know what the other.
If you're not carrying a Glock, then it's not reliable. Yeah.
Every
brand has fanboys like that.
Yeah.
I do not own a Glock. I don't even own a Glock clone, and the only reason I don't have a Glock is because my brother-in-law had a Glock, and when I fire it, I have this weird thing in my tennis tendon where if I have a super clicky trigger, it will pop something in my elbow and it'll hurt. So I have a Mini 14 and it had a really clunky trigger when I got it. And when I would fire it, I would get this ping that I'd feel in my elbow. Got a trigger job done on it. It doesn't do it anymore. Perfectly happy. Glock, same thing. That safety trigger that they have with the little rib in the middle, Just it hits a special spot in my finger, runs down my elbow.
Really?
Don't know what causes it, but it's enough to make me not like it. So there are other excellent guns out there, but at the same time, the only reason I didn't get a Glock is just one particular thing unique to me. And tell you what, if I'm in a firefight, I can get over that pretty quick.
Right. Yeah.
If I'm taking rounds and sending rounds, putting ordnance on foreheads, calling in stuff, it's like that's the least of my worries. Is, man, my elbow's kind of sore from pulling this trigger.
Yeah. It's not like you're gonna be, oh wait, let me put my ear pro in real quick. Boop, boop.
Yeah, exactly.
Before I fire, like you're just gonna put up with the consequences of it. This other another comment by Sultan. We had a bunch of extra ammo at the range one day, and we had to shoot it all because it was a hassle to return unused ammo. Burned through hundreds of rounds on burst that day. Yeah, I believe that. That's about all that 3-round burst is worthy of, is burning through ammo. That's so. Thank you for finding a reason for the military to have 3-round burst on one of its rifles. That's
a funny factoid. The French assault rifle that they issue to their service members has a 3-round burst, and it has a 28-round magazine. Now, if you do a little math real quick, 28 is not divisible by 3.
Yeah.
So
but neither is 20. You said that.
Yeah. So their rifle is supposed, their military doctrine is, always shoot it on 3-round burst. And so they'll pull the trigger, and then on the last one, they'll get 1 shot or 2 shots, depending, on if they did any single shots along the way. But just one of those funny kind of quirks of certain rifles that 3-round burst makes a lot of sense with a 30-round magazine, because you get 10 bursts, right? But they originally came up with it because they didn't want guys in the jungle walking in with a 20-round magazine, emptying it in 5 seconds, and then having an empty gun while they're being charged by Vietnamese trees. So that was the invention of it, is conserve ammunition. The Army has a weird history of making decisions to try and conserve ammunition. When Garand was designing the M1 Garand, and his name is pronounced Garand, but the gun is a Garand, all right? Because he's a Canadian, but it was an American rifle, and we'll tell you how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
So,
right.
When it was designed, he was designing it with a box magazine, and then the military came to him and said, "We don't want to give them a box magazine because we're worried that they'll shoot too much." So the development of the clip only having, 8 rounds? Yeah, 8 rounds in an Enlin block clip is in order to conserve ammunition.
Dumb.
So bean counters be like that.
Did I ever tell you the cool thing that we would do with tracer rounds? Like, because
cool things for tracer rounds.
Yeah, well, yeah, you can. Sometimes you can set someone on fire with one.
Yeah. I've seen videos of people blowing up trucks. You have people don't know this, but in order for a fuel cell to explode, it actually has to have a lot of air in it. So you actually can't blow up cars like you can in Hollywood movies unless the fuel tank is like almost empty. But if you put tracer rounds into it and it's a mostly empty or at least a half empty tank, you can maybe blow that thing up.
That actually was.
What did y'all do?
Oh, so when you were talking about the number of rounds in a magazine, so for whatever reason, the Army, it wasn't like they would say, okay, for your, like, we had to take count of rounds after every mission. So, but it wasn't like they would give you, okay, here's like a magazine full of tracers, and here's a magazine full of like NATO rounds or whatever. Like, for those that don't know, the NATO rounds are the ones with the green tips, and then tracer rounds are the ones with the red tips. So that's how we would know. But then there would just be like, I guess, like civilian rounds that didn't have a colored tip at all. And I'm just like, where are we getting these rounds from? Like,
green tips have a steel core.
Is that what it is?
They're armor penetrating, although it can't be much armor.
Okay.
And then red tip is, like you said, tracer rounds that have a flammable thing in them.
So
the typical bronze is just full metal jacket. It's lead core with a bronze jacket.
See, that's so interesting because they would just tell us, well, these are NATO rounds. They work in any NATO gun, because that's why they base the ammo that we use. Like, that's why we use 9mm instead of. I mean, there's no reason to change that, but that's why we use 9mm, because that's what our NATO allies used, and we liked that, and so we went with that.
Well, our NATO allies used it because we told them that's what we're going to use.
Wow. Well, I guess it goes both ways, but.
Yeah.
The idea is that your Norwegian buddy that you went out on patrol with, which I've done, like with the Norwegian troops, like we knew, like they had 9mm for sidearms and they had their 5.56 for their yeah. So, anyways, with the tracers, we would just use it for like counting. So some guys like to have it like as their 10th, 20th, and 30th rounds. But I mean, your 30th round, because it's your last round. But what I and guys I was with, what we like to do is make it like our last 5. So it would be like you would know, or like maybe your last 10 or whatever number you wanted to use. But it was like, oh, I'm getting low. And so you would just know at the end, like, oh, I'm shooting fire. I know I'm about to be out. So that was just a cool thing that we do instead of using tracers to actually like know where you're going. Because there's not a super practical reason to have tracer rounds in just a rifle. Like if you had the like a 240 Bravo, like you put a tracer round every 3 or 5 rounds or whatever. It's actually kind of showing you like where you're shooting at. So that's actually useful because it's a belt fed machine gun.
Yeah. And with belt feds, you're often, not using your scope or your irons. You're often looking over the gun at impact to guide your next shot.
The 240 was closer to that, like specific aiming. Now the 50 cal was just it's the quintessential spray and pray. Like you're like, okay, I'm gonna kind of hit. Like when you qualify with the 50 cal, your grouping is supposed to be cigar shaped. That's it. So it's like you're gonna hit here. It's gonna naturally kind of do this, make it the shape of a cigar. Like you're literally just okay, got that, or you're suppressing fire or whatever. But anyways, that's silly stuff. Are we? Did you want to say something else about
Nope, that's it for my segment. Okay. So is it yours if you have to share?
Yeah. Speaking of, I wanted to point out your book in the back there. I'll Take My Stand. That is the book that I was quoting from last episode. So I don't know what copy of that you have if you want to tell the people where you can get that. But I do not have a physical copy, but that is...
I got this from a bookseller friend of mine. So I don't know where he got it from, but he grabbed a limited run of these, and so good friend of ours who runs Western Front Books. If you're interested in good quality and sometimes controversial books that are hard to find in other places, he's a great guy to get those from.
He does have kind of random, like out of print books. It'll be like some random thing that no one's ever heard of. He's like, yeah, I've got like 5 of them left. Who wants them?
Yeah.
He's good at that. Yeah.
Every once in a while in the group chat, people will be talking about a book and he'll be like, hey, I can get my hands on 10 of those. Are y'all interested?
Yeah.
So,
and then people are scrambling to be the first 10.
Yeah. And then, without fail, somebody will be like, oh, I want 2. So hogging them all. Yeah, I've not read this yet, but I am going to dig into this. I will probably, I've got my hands on the PDF version. I'll probably listen to it because I consume most of my books that way. But I wanted to have a physical copy. You know, it's 12 Southerners writing about the South, and you know, I can read off what each of their writings are. You know, reconstructed but unregenerate, a mirror for artists.
Those two were the ones we talked about last week. So
then
I will say it's
conflict, education, past and present, a critique of the philosophy of progress. So it's like, this is not, I mean, it's not light reading. You're going to have to think about it, but it's not unapproachable either.
No, there are some times where I have to stop because I'll listen to it on Speechify, and I'm not paying money for that. So I have like the kind of robotic voice doing it, and so I'll kind of like read it as I'm listening to it. We've talked about that. Where like even when I'm like sleepy, I'm still kind of like, oh, okay, I can still kind of track what's going on. But there's been times where I'm like, I need to go over that again because it's just some of it's very, very dense. There are sections.
Even when I'm reading, you know, I'll get to the bottom of a page and realize that I don't actually remember anything that I just read.
What did I just read? Yeah. Well, let's talk about these clowns here. Kay Burley, who is a woman, that's really all you need to know, I'm sure, because it's a woman's opinion. She is answering a question about... Actually, she's responding to somebody who is basically saying, we don't need to be taking in immigrants. And Kay Burley says, what about human beings who have risked everything, including their life, in search of a better future? Well, that's always the situation that's how women think, right? Well, what about this one guy that I met at a coffee shop one time, and he told me a harrowing tale about how, you know, he had to pay a coyote to get him across, and then blah, blah, blah. Bobby here, real black Irish. I'm not sure if he is using that in an ironic way or the actual way that it's supposed to be used, but he says, our country does not exist to provide a better life for foreigners. And I like to give people credit for what they say. If they say things with like just the perfect words, like they just get it perfect, I like to give credit there. So I thought that really encapsulated everything that needs to be said on that our country does not exist to provide a better life for foreigners. And man, that is a thought that a lot of us have shared. It's always been an American thing, at least in my entire lifetime. There is, you know, because my entire lifetime has been on this side of Hart Cellar, but there is this idea of like, well, I'm a regular American, right? And then this guy comes and he waves his flag from wherever he's from. And anytime you criticize that as like, well, but this is my country and you have your country, you always get what this woman says. Well, I mean, they provide, they do whatever. And Bobby here just nails it. Our country does not exist to provide a better life for foreigners. And now you have, I believe this guy is actually in Ireland. And we now see that this is something that is happening in Europe as well. It's not just an American thing anymore, which is interesting because as anyone who has spent any amount of time on the internet with Europeans, they used to be, maybe 20 years ago, they were very critical about the way that white Americans talked about foreigners. And be wow, you guys are really mean and racist, and they're just people. Why can't you just live with them? But now that Europe has been whatever the opposite of blessed is, I guess cursed, with boatloads of third worlders, they have kind of changed their tune over the last couple decades. That's been very fascinating to see, especially as an American. And it's interesting because, in America, what we always, in America, one of the ways that people will come back on that criticism, I say people, I mean like liberals in particular, they'll say like, well, we're a nation of immigrants, right? But why is Europe being cursed with this? What did these European countries do? Do they have a poem on a statue that gives foreigners free license to just show up on the shores and come into the country like they're storming Normandy or something like? I mean, have you ever seen those videos where it's just like a bunch of Africans on a boat, on like a raft, on like a makeshift raft made of porta potty parts and whatever, and they just show up? Yeah, they show up on a beach in Spain and just like walk in, and people on the beach are like, what? Like, what is this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the argument that a lot of people make sometimes for Europe is they're like, oh, well, it's because of colonialism. It's like, England deserves all of these African migrants because they colonized Africa. France deserves all of these African migrants because they colonized Africa.
Yeah.
Spain deserves these migrants because they colonized South America. So who did Sweden colonize?
Mm-hmm.
Who did Switzerland or Ireland? Who did Poland colonize? What countries were these people colonizing that they deserve it? I mean, and that's if you're going to accept this farce on its face, which is that, colonization was, one, a bad thing, and two, you should be punished for it. They don't like to think about the fact that saying, well, you deserve African migrants because you colonized Africa presupposes that African migrants are actually bad for your country. Yeah, which means
it does.
You shouldn't want them here.
Yeah, and it's funny you bring that up because like it always comes down to that. When even in the church you'll hear people say that, well, this is, all these immigrants coming in, it's God's punishment because we strayed away from the gospel. Okay, that's fine, but could you at least be more open about the idea that it is a punishment? Like that it's a net negative at all times to take them into our country? Like just give me that. Just say that I can say that. Hey, this is God's righteous punishment and I don't like being punished. Can I say that? Am I allowed to say, like, I don't like these net negative people who come into my country and destroy that which I love? Like, you can't have it both ways. They can't be a blessing and a curse at the same time. Oh, and to answer your question, you would ask, who did Sweden colonize? I believe the answer would be England and France and specifically Normandy, that area. Mm-hmm. And really, I mean, they really just had a world tour, didn't they? They showed up in North America at one point. Like
they made their way. They made their way all the way to Italy and the Italian states, the Papal States. They were harrying the coast along there in the 500s and 600s.
This is I was going to say this is a Viking joke, guys. This isn't real.
Yeah, but okay. We were talking before about the guy whose handle was real Black Irish.
Yeah.
North Irish have a lot of Swedish or Danish, really, Viking DNA. Northern England, Scotland, the Midlands, the whole east coast of England has a lot more blondes than, Wales or Cornwall, where, you have darker haired people because they didn't get that Swedish and Norwegian admixture.
Right.
Black Irish is a reference to Irish people having black hair.
Yeah.
Having dark hair and typically darker eyes. Some people postulate that happened because of there was a large Spanish fleet that was supposed to invade England and take over this giant armada, and God providentially destroyed that fleet. He used his servant Francis Drake, among others, to destroy this, at the time, the world's largest fleet that had ever been assembled. And a lot of those Spanish sailors ended up on the coast of Ireland, those that got away. Because if they ended up on the shores of England, they just got killed. There was no taking prisoners. It was like, you're Spanish, we kill you. Yeah. And then, but the guys who made it over to Ireland, there were enough of them that they had a traceable genetic impact. And some people postulate that that's where the Black Irish come from. Some people say that it pre-existed that, which it may have. But when you think of an Irishman, you don't exactly think of a guy with black hair and brown eyes. You typically think of like a redhead,
Yeah. Well, I remember the first time I ever heard of the term Black Irish was I was watching Late Night with Conan O'Brien in high school, and Conan had Colin Farrell on the show, and he was talking about how he's like, there's like Ireland has these people like Colin Farrell, who are just like these suave, Ireland's so proud. Yeah, like Ireland's so proud of these guys and whatever. Mm-hmm. But then then there's me, Conan O'Brien just talking down on himself, because that's what a good comedian does. You make yourself the butt of the joke. But he's just then there's me, who's like that, hi, like that kind of Irish guy, because he's
after my Lucky Charms.
Yeah, because he's just like bright red hair and, and lanky and very pale.
Gets a sunburn at night.
Yeah, he's aged very well, though. By the way, I saw a video of him. I was listening to his podcast for a bit. There's some pretty funny episodes. Speaking of Irish, what's the guy's name? Oh boy, who's the Liam Neeson? If you want to listen to one episode of Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, listen to the Liam Neeson one. It is absolutely hilarious. It's just a couple Irish guys talking about growing up in Irish households. Even though Conan grew up in Boston area. Mm-hmm. Different kind of Irish, but anyways, Irish nonetheless. Speaking of, that is actually happened to be a perfect segue into what the name of this image, Jeff. So I don't know if that shows up, but Jeff had.
It doesn't show up on the page, no.
Is it cool if I say what you called it? Is that cool?
Go ahead. We've already played a video with an F-bomb in it.
Oh, okay. He's the one who uploaded it, and so the image shows up in the doc as irishfaggot.jpg. So I thought that was clever. As soon as that popped up, I'm like, oh boy, that's pretty good. So for those only listening, what we have here is something on Facebook. It is a Facebook page called Heritage Society Brag and Swag.
Which, for context, this guy is bragging.
Yeah, he is. This is, now that I'm looking at it, the name is different on there. I wonder if that's a screenshot. Like this person is sharing a screenshot of it, because Heather is the name of the person who posted it, but the name of the person who made the comment is Jerry. It almost looks like a Robert E. Lee picture in this Jerry guy's thing, but probably not Robert
It's
E. Lee.
Probably just some Scotch Irishman in a statue somewhere.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyways, what he says here, he says,
he has his picture. Yeah. He has his picture at the bottom, and you can see him. He looks like your typical Irishman.
Yeah.
All right. He's got silver hair. He's a little bit swarthy, but he's still obviously a white man.
Yeah.
And he's arm in arm, giving the thumbs up to the camera with this guy who is not Irish. Because they don't.
He's dark.
I mean, that's not what Black Irish means.
Yeah.
All right.
I would have guessed by just looking at the picture before I read the caption, I would have guessed that was like a Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I would have guessed, but it's not a Mexican. The guy's comment is, "I'm pictured here with Bobby." I wonder if that's his real name, by the way. Side note. Anyways, "I'm pictured here with Bobby, the chieftain of my Irish clan, the Britons Clan na o Broyton." Is that boy? That is a name right there. I couldn't pronounce that, guy, so I'm not going to pretend to. It's
My
Clan.
best guess would be Clan na Obretion.
Yeah,
but I am not a Gaelic speaker, so it's
I'll
probably
go
something
with that.
close to that.
Yeah.
They do funny things with vowels in Gaelic.
Yeah. Despite my very extremely Irish first name, I do not know any Gaelic. In fact, if my name was spelt like traditionally, there would be a little accent mark on the A, which would give it that Sean instead of like Scene or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He says, anyways, "We worked together at the Sydney airport and became mates. He is Aboriginal Australian and an official elder of the Kamilaroi Nation, 2 pronunciations, of northern New South Wales around Moree. He was that ultra rare kind of friend and mentor, which is the role of Aboriginal Australian elders. So there was only one thing to do. By Irish traditional acclamation, we not only adopted him, but recognized him as chieftain of the clan. So he is officially 100% Aboriginal and Irish, elder and chieftain. So I always show him the respect of addressing him as that. Community is family, and the bond is heritage." Well, Jerry, what heritage do you share with this guy? Because it's an Irish guy. Flew out to Australia, and then I guess brought him back. Is that what's going on here? Like
this sounds to me like the guy is an immigrant, an economic migrant into Ireland from Australia, and he didn't give up his role as elder of his Australian Aboriginal tribe, which is not something that I would expect him to do. But he assumed the position of tribal elder in this country that he came to, where he has no roots, where he has no right to be a tribal chieftain, and he just took over.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to decipher the story because he's saying that they worked together in the Sydney airport. So this Irish guy worked in Australia.
Yeah, Sydney, Australia. Mm-hmm.
And so we not only adopted him, but recognized him as chieftain of the clan. Yeah, so so
is he even in Ireland?
I don't know. Those buildings seem Irish to me. I don't know why I think that, but why else would he say so he is officially 100% Aboriginal and Irish? I don't know. And then the idea of the bond is heritage. What heritage do you share with this guy that you both happen to live on islands in different parts of the world? So you're, what is the bond here? You're so separated by, I mean, even, especially from like an atheist evolutionary standpoint, the Aboriginal people are the most genetically separated from any other people. I mean, there's like even sub-Saharan Africans are a little more close genetically than Aboriginals. I mean, they're so extremely isolated, and I mean,
which is what you'd expect from people living in Australia before the advent of modern transportation. I mean, those people were there for thousands of years with no invention of wheels or ships or anything of the sort. They were nomadic hunter-gatherers. And by hunter-gatherers, I mean hunters. I mean, they're living in Australia. There's not a lot to eat there that's not a kangaroo or an emu.
Right. What's it? Thomas Sowell has an interesting, I guess, anecdote in his basic economics book, where he says that, just having the materials for something doesn't make it useful necessarily if you're not the kind of person who can make use of it. And the example he gives is that Australia is one of the biggest sources of iron ore in the entire world. And I mean, you don't even have to dig to know that. You can look at Australia and be like, that is very red. That is a lot of iron in that soil. Like you could just see it in the soil. And he was like, but the people who lived there for thousands of years were just cave people. I mean, they were just bush people. Like they never got past the Stone Age. I mean, we dunk on sub-Saharan Africa, but I mean, Aboriginal Australians are way less than that. Like sub-Saharan Africans can dunk on them. Like it's extremely
not an enviable position.
Yeah. But you know what's funny about this to me is Irish people will call people in America of Irish descent, they'll call them plastic patties. That's a thing that they'll say. Well, you guys aren't real Irish. You're like a plastic version of it. You're not like an authentic Irish, right? You had this political party, well, it still exists, called Sinn Féin. And, they were essentially the political party version of the Irish Republican Army, right? Mm-hmm. They were like the IRA without car bombs. And they wanted, dirty Brits out of Ireland and all this kind of stuff. But then, out of nowhere, you get these like Africans or whatever, and they're like, they're just as Irish as I am. Suddenly being Irish is a lot less than blood or apparently soil apparently soil is all that matters. You could just be anyone, and as long as your boots are currently planted in Irish soil, you're an Irish person. I guess that's
as much as any other Irishman ever was. Yeah,
it's magic soil. You're suddenly that guy. I remember, when I was big into this before I knew my real heritage, I guess is the way that should be an episode in itself. My father issues, I guess, but if that's what you want to call it. But I love my father. I love both of my fathers. Let's just leave it on that cliffhanger. But I was really into like the Irish part of my heritage, which I know from my mom's side, so I knew that hasn't changed. And I was looking into like which clan would I be part of, right? Because we would go to these Celtic festivals, me and my buddies, and we all had Irish heritage, and so we would all be into that together. And I was like, what tartan should I wear, and all that kind of stuff. And when I would talk to people at these booths, they're like, now make sure, don't just go to this one because, there's someone with that last name, whatever. You need to make sure you don't want to be in the wrong clan, right? You want to make sure you're representing the right thing. And it was like this big thing. And it wasn't like a negative, right? It wasn't like they were trying to like make me not want to do that, but it was just this very serious thing. You don't want to be representing the wrong people. Like, make sure your blood connects to the tartan in the proper way. But boy, as soon as, someone who just shows up on a boat and clearly isn't anywhere near Irish, and, but he commits less crimes than the other ones. So he's a real Irishman as far as I'm concerned, or like he can handle his liquor. So he's truly Irish.
Well, Australian Aboriginals cannot handle their liquor.
No. They can handle their petrol though. I'll tell you that much.
Petrol fumes.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a whole government funded
Yeah.
campaign to tell them to stop huffing petrol fumes, because
Yeah.
what these people do is they will get gasoline, they'll huff it till they're high, and then they'll go lay in the road
Yeah.
and get run over. And so there's this big government campaign. Hey, stop huffing petrol, and if you do, don't lay in the road. Just things that wouldn't occur to.
And it was like
American.
it was like children singing a song too.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it was like it was like a choir of children.
Standard government propaganda. We're going to get cute kids, to sing the song about don't huff petrol and lay in the road.
Yeah. But you know what? If drinking Jameson and laying around in Ireland makes you Irish, then huffing petrol and laying in the road should make you a car. So that's really. So who knows? These are just, you know what? These people are just they're like animorphs. You know, they can morph into whatever thing they need to.
You know, I do find it very funny that the name of his clan is Clan na Obretain, or something along those lines, and it sounds, or it looks like it sounds a lot like the word Britain.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, you know, if he found an Englishman who started working in, let's say, the Dublin airport, and he's like, oh, well, but this Englishman has this very fatherly attitude, and he's an elder in the church, so we just made him the chieftain of the clan. Do you think that would fly for half a second?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Genetically, and people aren't going to like this, if you're Irish, hold your ears. Genetically, the Irish and the English are very close cousins. Closer than they are to the French, closer than they are to the Norman French, even, despite the fact that they've, hundreds of years ago, that was one country. Normandy and England were one nation. Despite that, they are more closely related to Irishmen, not just Northern Irishmen, but proper Republican Irishmen, than they are to any continental Europeans.
Yeah.
And if an Englishman tried to take this position of leader of a clan, first off, the Englishman, I think, would have more common sense to be like, no, I'm not going to assume that. Yeah. That's not appropriate for me to become some clan leader in some country that I'm not from. That would be inappropriate. But this Australian Aboriginal guy, who's a tribal elder, I mean, this picture, he looks like a perfectly affable fellow. And he's an older fellow, so he's probably got some wisdom, and I'll give him his due. But that doesn't make him an Irish chieftain.
Yeah.
My grandmother is a beautiful, wise old lady. She's not an Irish chieftain.
Yeah.
She can never become an Irish chieftain. If she went and lived in Ireland and the people came to her and said, we're going to make you our clan chief, that would be absurd. And she would know it and everybody else would know it. But for some reason, because he's foreign, because he's brown, they have this noble, savage idea of let's lift the brown person and make him some tribal chieftain. And it's a weird fetish. It's a weird cultural fetish that these modern Europeans have, where they hate themselves and they hate their own culture so much that any brown person who comes along can be just as Irish or English or German or Swedish as anybody else, despite the fact that, if these brown people come to Sweden and all of a sudden you start having grenade attacks, people throwing grenades into houses and cars and killing each other. Like, Sweden didn't have this problem before the sub-Saharans showed up. This is a problem that came with these people who came in. And but we're supposed to accept them as, they're just as European as you or I or anybody else. Doesn't make any sense.
And it's more obvious when you use like European examples because in America, we still talk about our European heritage and like the specifics of them. Like we mentioned a million times, like you're heavily German. Apparently I'm a lot more German than I initially thought. And the more I look into my lineage type stuff, and but mostly Norwegian still. But you know, that was another thing. I remember talking on 4chan with guys, and you know, this guy, he was giving the example. He's Norwegian. He speaks English because it's 4chan, but he was saying that Americans would come to Norway and they would say, "Oh yeah, I'm Norwegian," and he said that him and all his buddies, to a man, they would always tell them like, "No, dude, you're an American. You're not like us. Your people left and made something else, whatever it is.
They became something else.
Yeah, you don't speak our language. You don't eat our foods. Maybe you make some little thing. Sometimes you'll ironically say oofta because you think that's, authentically Norwegian or whatever the thing is, right? I'm kind of like ragging on myself, I guess, but that's a thing, and it's their thing that they should say. I do the same thing in the SCV sometimes with myself, is that I mean, it's not. I'm trying to think. What's a good version of having a chip on your shoulder? Like, I guess a humility of sorts, like a
self-awareness.
Yeah, like I try very hard. Like I'm very self-aware of, like, I don't want to be the guy who is trying to define what like true southernness is, right? I try very hard to do my reading, and there's certain things that I like about Southern culture more than others, but like I try very hard to not be the guy who's like, no, we have to do it this way. Now I will sometimes say like that some of the things that people hold up as like, this is what it means to be this authentic part of the culture, and it's something like, we say supper instead of dinner or whatever, and I'm like, okay, buddy, but that's not much to hang a hat on, but okay. All that to say, like, it is crazy that, for a group of people, especially Irish, that it's such a distinct type of pride that people have in America. For those who don't know, in America, people just make up Irish blood in themselves so that they can celebrate St. Patrick's Day or whatever. Like people just lie about being Irish, or they'll be like 5% Irish, and that'll be like their entire personality. Right? Yeah, like they just make it everything about themselves, but it's a very small part of their heritage. That's a distinctly American thing. People love being Irish. And so for an actual Irish person to then turn around, and I talked about this when you were in the bathroom, like, it's really been in the last 20 years, there's been this crazy switch, because you see guys like this, but then you see the opposite, where all the guys who were, like I said, like talking on 4chan or whatever, you talk to these Europeans, and sometimes they'd be like, man, you guys in America are like really bad to foreigners, or you're just like really racist. Like you guys should be nicer to black people. But in the last 20 years or so, boy, is that they flipped the switch on that, to the point where it's kind of like, oh, we get it now. Oh, that's what it's like. Oh man, I'm so sorry, guys. And you know what? Apology accepted. You live and you learn, right? I get it, right? It's hard for people to really know. It's hard for people who are in America, but they're in a part of America like Minnesota, heavily Norwegian and Swedish communities, but boy, the Minneapolis is like 10%. I read something 10% Somali now. 10% of a major American city like Minnesota that has almost zero non-white immigrant history. I mean, like, to be 10% Somalian, like, that's insane. So for them, like, even them, they're kind of going through we get it. You guys in the South who have lived through this for, 160 whatever years, and we get it now. Okay. Yeah. So the thing when you were saying like is it yours if you have to share was because the conclusion that I was coming to with a lot of this is that if you live in a country where everyone around you, it seems like they're the same as you, it doesn't feel like you're sharing that country with those people because those people are part of that country. They are your nation. They're not just country. They are your nation. They're not just a government entity. You're not just on paper the same people. You're the same people by blood. You're the same people by history. I talk about this. The reason that American history has kind of not been as popular in schools. Like now they want to, you want to talk about world history, right? We used to have in high schools in America. I remember being younger and seeing in TV shows of high schools where it seemed like the class they were always going to was Western Civ. That was, do you remember that? Or is that just like like they'd be like, oh, I got Western Civ next. Like that just seemed to be the class everyone was going to for whatever reason. And they would always have the...
I mean, I went to college for 2 years before I left. And I think I took 3 classes on Western Civ. So my 4 semesters, in 3 of the semesters, I was taking a class on Western Civ. It was Western Civ 1, Western Civ 2. And then the other one, I don't remember what it was called, but it was not called Western Civ, but it essentially was a survey of Western civilization. And the thing is, it's very deep. So you can be in it for years and not plumb the depths of it. But yeah, I mean, big subject for a lot of people.
Yeah. And
yet it seems like despite the fact that we learn so much about it, we don't value it highly enough to protect it.
Well, and I hear secondhand like that it's more about like world history now. I kind of saw that going. I graduated into high school in 2007, and even then we had to take world religions, right? You take a class where it's all the religions. You're not learning like history of Christian thought or something like that, or like Christianity within Western civilization, something like that. It's all the world's religions. So you got to learn about Buddhism and Hinduism and all that trash. And all that to say, I went to a customer's house one time, and clearly Indian, so I'm not going to like pretend like I didn't know that. But it was interesting when I'm going through, I'm doing a service at this person's house, and I see one of the bookshelves in the room. It's all like Indian history stuff. And it was like one of the kids' rooms. And I'm like, that's not something an American would have, like a whole bookshelf of Indian history. Why does this person care about the history of India? They're an American, right? Well, no, they're not an American in any meaningful way. They're Indian. That's their history. They care about Indian history because it's their history. It's the same thing when we were talking about Saint Olaf. Literally the only reason I cared about this because I went on Google. I said, "Who's the patron saint of Norway?" And I looked into it, and I'm like, "Oh, this is cool. He's a real king." Like so, like that. That's the only reason I cared about that. And so that is why I think it's becoming in America. You want to. The teachers want to teach a world history. The only American history they want to teach you is that, America's the bad guys and we need all the foreigners to come in and be the good guys and teach us the true way.
Yeah.
And
they'll criticize people for not wanting foreigners, and the thing they'll often accuse nationalists of is they're like, oh, what do you think they're coming here to pollute your blood? And it's complete projection.
Yeah.
Because that's what they want, is they want people to come in and dilute the blood.
Yeah.
And for some reason they have this, like I called it before, fetish, where they have a desire to destroy Western culture and the Western nations, the people of the West. And I have a book here, The Death of the West by Buchanan. Read that book. This man was very prescient. He saw things coming that a lot of people didn't. People called him crazy. They said, what are you talking about? But he talks about the death of the West. He talks about the suicide of a superpower, how the United States essentially destroyed itself. And we're living in the aftermath of that right now, where for some reason, Tucker Carlson has said this a couple times, it's almost like we lost a war.
Yeah.
Or something like that. We supposedly won World War II, but we're not behaving like we won. Yeah. We're behaving like conquered people who are being diluted, replaced, and genocided in our own country. That's what you do to people that lose the war. That's not what you do to people who win. So why are we behaving like defeated people? Why are we being treated like a conquered nation? And if you look into it, I think there's a good case to be made that World War II was a war between Christian Europe and another power, and the other power won.
Yep. Yeah, it's so like I guess the end point I want to go with I really like your question of, is it yours if you have to share? Because when we talk about sharing America, right? Like, oh, there's enough for everyone. Well, before there were people who were clearly, not American, like hyphenated Americans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those are the people it feels like we have to share with. But before that, it didn't feel like sharing. It was just, well, we are a nation. We exist with the same history. We, when we go to school, we just learn American history because that's all of our histories. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Nobody in this room is the bad guy because we're all the good. My history book in school says all of us are the good guy. Let's read that history book where every American's the good guy. And, it's a shame that we have to now feel like that. Like, oh, we have to share. And that's why you have these guys in Arkansas and now Missouri who want to carve out a piece of land so that it doesn't feel like they have to share with their neighbors, but that they and their neighbors work together as a people and have a land. It's just, I could go on and on about this, but we need to be wrapping up. We're getting kind of late here.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, let's finish out in the comments here. Well, I had one more thing I wanted to say. Yeah. So the thing that I was thinking of with the question, is it yours if you have to share? When I was a kid, there would be certain toys or items that my parents would make me share with my siblings or make my siblings share with me. And, one of the things, the retort often when you tell a child to share something is, but it's mine. And my dad explained to me at one point, he said, son, you don't own anything. You're a kid. I bought that thing. You don't own anything. You're sharing it because it's mine and I gave it to you, and you have to share it with your brother because he's your brother. And I'm the one making the rules. It's kind of like right now, my daughters share a bed. My younger daughter is very little still. She's 4, but she's small even for a 4-year-old. She's petite. and she doesn't take up a lot of room, and she's just more comfortable and feels better sharing the bed with my other daughter. And in a sense, they share a bed, but in a different way than if I brought in a foreigner, some other person's child, and had them sleeping in the same bed with my daughters. If my friend came over and their daughter wanted to do a sleepover, and so she slept in the same bed with the other girls, and they had a little tea party and then a little slumber party, she would be sharing my daughter's bed in a different way than she's sharing with her sister, because it's not hers. She is borrowing it, but she's not from here. It doesn't belong to her. She can't make rules about where the pillows and blankets go because it's not hers. And that's the way it is with foreigners in a nation. If I go to Japan as a migrant and I become a Japanese citizen and I live there for the rest of my life, I'm not Japanese in the same way that an actual Japanese is Japanese.
Yeah.
And if at some point they decide, hey, it's time for you to go home now, slumber party's over, go home, I'm not Japanese. They can kick me out.
Yeah.
If they say, hey, we don't want you living in this house here, we want you living over there, I'm not Japanese. I have to move. I am a guest in their house and I have to follow their rules. And it's a very different thing when something actually belongs to you than when you're participating in it as a guest. And that's one thing that these migrants don't understand is, even the ones who come here and they get American citizenship, you're still a guest. You will not be ever as American as my children are American, because you're not. You just can't become an American the way someone who is born an American is.
Yeah, I think that when we talk about a neighbor, right, I'm not sharing with my neighbors because my neighbors are an asset. It is beneficial to me that I have my neighbors in my neighborhood. And the reason I say is, like, I can't mow all the lawns in my neighborhood. They need to be able to do that. I can't upkeep all the houses and whatever. Like, I can't trim all the trees and do all that stuff. They need to be there too. I have a neighbor. I want to put signs out today. He pulls up in like a gator, like a I don't know how it's called. It's like a little diesel like golf cart thing, like a heavy duty golf cart, I guess, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And we just went around the neighborhood putting signs up for a community issue that we're all fighting together. But my neighbors are an asset to me. I don't have to see it as like, well, they're getting a piece of the pie and I wish I had it all. But to live in that community as a whole, and that is the feeling that you get when it's your own native people in your native land. You're all living together. That's why people, and this will be the last thing I have to say on this, but that's why people go to war for their nation, right? You're going overseas or whatever, because you know that even if you die, there are your family is back home safe, right? Mm-hmm. Your family, part of your family is with you in the war zone, and some of you are going to die, some of you are going to keep living, but you know that your family is back home safe and their existence keeps going through them, you get to keep going. That's why people fight wars. They don't fight wars for ideas on paper or whatever crazy reason people like to pretend people fight wars for, or fight for anything. Why would you fight if that's the case? Like, that's what kills me when people talk about Ukraine, right? Send all these freaking foreigners over to Ukraine. All these people that just showed up on the boat and they're hanging out in 4-star hotels in Great Britain. That drives me insane. And I'm not British. I mean, genetically, I can trace myself back there, but I feel for those people as people who love their homeland and are getting a raw deal. And it's, man, I could go on and on about that rant, but I think people get the idea. So
yeah, it was kind of eye-opening. One of the first groups of people to flee Ukraine as soon as the war started were all of the foreign migrants. And so you had these Africans who were being interviewed, and people asking him, why aren't you staying to fight? He says, this is not my fight. I'm not Ukrainian.
yeah.
And then that same person went to Ireland and sought refuge as a Ukrainian refugee. So he's like, no, I'm not Ukrainian. I'm not staying to fight in the Ukraine war, but I'll sure take advantage of refugee status as a Ukrainian.
Yeah.
It's completely two-faced. It's completely farcical on its face. And everybody knows it's a farce.
Yep.
He's less Ukrainian than I am.
Yeah.
I'm not the least bit Ukrainian.
It's people who, it's a people group that exists completely on subsidized behavior. They're not self-sustaining as a people. And so they go to other places so that their entire existence can be subsidized by people who can not only take care of themselves, but have an excess to be able to take care of useless people like that who flee to a country. And then as soon as that country, stuff hits the fan, then they got to flee to some other country. That it's parasitic. Yeah. It's parasitic behavior. And it's frustrating that there's people who would say that you're an evil person for pointing that out, that it is absolutely parasitic and useless behavior as a human being.
Yeah, very true. All right, well, let's finish out with comments. So Z says, them both working at Sydney Airport hints that they are both in Australia, and the Irishman is the one separated from his home.
That actually makes sense.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Magic Dirt, talking about, people coming in and just becoming a part of it. Yeah. The Magic Dirt idea is dead and gone. The name of that song that we were thinking of,
Don't be Rama Rama.
Government, Don't Be Rama Rama. A quote from it: you put the petrol in the car, it stays. Don't be Rama Rama, it's messing with your brain. Are you really having to tell people not to huff the gas in their gas tank? I mean,
I have that queued up, by the way, if you want to end with that instead of the usual thing.
Yeah, drop it in. And
okay. Well, I have a link. I have it on YouTube.
Okay.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Then Zach says self-deprecating humor. I'm not sure what he's referring to there, but then we've got Zach again. Everyone in the South. My great-grandmother was full-blood Cherokee. And there's this weird thing where it's like everybody I talk to about old history, they were like, oh, well, so-and-so, he married a full-blood squaw. They had this weird acclaim to Native American heritage. And I might have maybe a little bit of it, but I don't think that this full-blood squaw that my great-great-great-grandfather married, I don't think she was a full-blood squaw. I think she was it just doesn't add up with what tribe she was supposedly from and where they came from. So there's some weird fetishism there too. Then Zach again, sharing would be an upgrade. Think about all the programs for foreigners that Americans don't qualify for. We are below sharing status. Yeah, that's right. I mean, our resources are being pillaged to subsidize a parasitic nationality. People who come here and live off of our resources, even if they stay where they're from, they're still living off of our resources. If all foreign aid to Africa ended, millions of people would starve to death in a matter of hours. The entire continent is just subsidized by the Western world, and it's been that way for a long time, and it's probably not going to change anytime soon. All right, here is I'm not able to share it till I remove this. Here we go. All right, here's that video that we were talking about before. Can you turn it up? There we go. No Bunderad. Don't.
My friend, could we stand together? Look at us, we can live forever. Show
No
me
Bunderad.
sister, show me brother, and we stay strong to one another. Come on, come on, come on, come on, yeah! Come on, come on. We put the leaders over the islands. You don't save petrol from a can. You put the petrol in the United States. Don't be rama, it's messing with your brain. Say daily, do you understand? You don't save petrol from a can. You put the petrol.
I mean, I will say, very catchy.
Don't be rama, slipping up your nose.
Breakdown.
Love your friends and protect your family. They are with you when you are lonely. Don't bandera. When you stop, your brains will be clear. Come on, come on, come on, come on, yeah! Come on, come on. We put the leaders over the islands. You don't save petrol from a can. You put your petrol in the United States. Don't be rama, it's messing with your brain. Say daily, do you understand? You don't save petrol from a can. You put your petrol in the car it goes. Don't be rama, sniffing up your nose.
What? I don't remember the guitar solo in this. There you go.
You not deadly, you rama. Gonna get caught like the land of Saur.
What?
Shit, the boys and girls are sniffing too much petrol. Killing your brains.
This is the best ending we've ever had for a show. I gotta say.
Stop sniffing. Stop sniffing.
Don't be rama, it's messing with your brain. Say daily, do you understand? You don't save petrol from a can. You put your petrol in the car it goes. Don't be rama, sniffing up your nose. Use your brains, think about your caution.
No sniffing. Red dust role models. Fantastic.
You know, I've done some monkey wrenching before, and I'm sure I have inhaled a lot of gasoline. I have never gotten a high off of gasoline. I've gotten heartburn from it before.
Yeah.
It's different people have different responses to stimulants, chemicals, etc. I mean, Native Americans famously get drunk very quickly because their body can't handle the alcohol. I wonder if there's something going on there with the Aboriginals too, because it's just the idea of inhaling gasoline, which petrol is just the old Anglo word for gasoline.
Yeah.
It never would have occurred to me.
Nope.
But people do strange things. But no sniffing. Rama on your brain.
No sniff.
You say
No
you're
sniff.
deadly. No sniff. Well, anyhow. Well, it has been a night, and we hope that this show has been helpful and encouraging to y'all. You know, even in these dark days where things are being destroyed, there are still good things to do, and there's a lot of building that needs to be done. You know, this culture, your people, your nation is not going to save itself, and you need to take the measures that God has put within your grasp to work hard to preserve what you have and to provide something for future generations, for them to thrive. So we hope that you have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you for watching, and we hope you have a wonderful day.
Don't sniff.
No sniff.